Hello everyone, welcome along. This is Space Dave Live episode number 18. Awesome to have you guys with us tonight. So my name is Dave, and with us tonight we have some familiar faces there, our reliable, loyal studio audience there, and over in the back we've got Jess, who is our production assistant tonight. So before we get started, well, we're already started, but I'm going to show you something straight away. Look what I got tonight. Look at this. Isn't that awesome? A space cake with space rocks and everything to help celebrate the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, and this cake was brought in by Wendy, who is in the audience tonight. Thank you so much, Wendy. Boy, I'm looking forward to the end of the show. Let's get on with things and get it wrapped up quickly so we can get stuck into that cake. Now, this is the sort of thing you miss out on, you see, when you don't come and be part of our studio audience. So you should get yourself down here and be part of all the fun here. So now, let's just, I've just told that in the chat here, there's a few people in already, so let's have a quick look and see what's happening there. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming along. Lots of really cool stuff there. Now, Dominic says, hello, and what's this music? It's awful. So that's, you're referring to the music that we have in the countdown video. Now, it is a bit of an issue actually, because we can't just play any old music, of course, because of copyright issues. So we can play the kind of music that I can afford. So if you don't like the music, you know what to do, don't you? So we will get to that in just a sec. So yeah, it's stock music that I buy, and as I say, you can't just use any old music. As much as I would love to, because there's some cool stuff out there. So anyway, shall we have a look at our program tonight and see what we've got happening? So this is our program. We'll start off with all the usual housekeeping bits and pieces. Oh, there's my phone going. Thank you for getting that. I hope it's not bad news. Anyway, so we're going to get through the news and stuff tonight. We've got a little bit of stuff to talk about with some moon stuff, Apollo and Artemis missions, SpaceX anomaly. We finally have some firm news to do with the SpaceX anomaly, and the Indians finally got their rocket up and running this week. We're going to talk about, in our section, which tonight I'm calling The Truth Is Out There. That's our segment on conspiracy theories and UFOs and that kind of stuff. We've got something that we're going to look at there, and that is actually related to the competition tonight. So let's talk about the competition actually. So first of all, with the competition, let's talk about last week's competition. Because you know what I'm like with the competition, I'm blimmin' hopeless. I keep forgetting stuff to do with the competition. And last week we spoke, the competition question was, what would you call a moon that had broken free of its planet?
Before, Dave.
The week before, was it? Was it the week? What was last week's competition? I can't even remember now. Anyway, previously on the show, we had a question about what happens when a moon breaks free of its planet, and I said at the end of the show I would explain what that was all about. So there's lots of really good, interesting and creative ideas about what you would call a moon that had broken free of its planet. The reason I had actually asked you about that was because of this scientific paper that had just been released, and the name that these scientists had given such an object is Plunet. Plunets. Yep. Plunet, you can kind of, yeah, there it is up there. So if you're interested in the scientific paper, you can see it there. But that is the name that scientists have given to a moon that has broken free of its planet, a plunet. So there you go. Now, just to quickly check, is everything okay with the phone there?
Yeah.
Wasn't anything important? Cool, thank you for that. I should turn it off, shouldn't I, before we start? So, this week's competition. Now, that's actually related to what we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. So someone has sent me a video that they wanted me to check out, and it was about some apparently dodgy stuff going on during the moon missions. And the question this week is, how interested are we in that kind of stuff? Specifically, should we spend time on the show analysing videos about conspiracies and stuff like that? Because I know that a lot of you are really interested in this. I'm kind of interested in it. I go hot and cold on it myself. I think it's worthwhile, but look, I shouldn't say too much about what I think about it. What I want to know is, what do you think about it? Should we spend time on the show talking about NASA's alleged lies, conspiracy theories, UFO sightings and all that kind of stuff? And are you interested in pulling apart some of the videos that talk about this sort of thing? So it is a little bit tricky. There's a few issues with that. We'll talk about that later on. But in the meantime, let me know yes or no if you're interested in talking about that sort of stuff. And please feel free to expand on it and let me know how much you'd like to talk about it, why or why not or whatever. The only really important thing is that you start your entry with that comp, then your answer. And the reason is that when Jess is looking through to put all the competition entries together, if it doesn't start with that, she will just scroll straight past it and won't see it. So if it doesn't have comp, you're not in the competition. So get stuck into the competition, you can enter that anytime. Right, a couple of other quick bits of housekeeping, of course. If you want to support the show, you know how to do it, patreon.com/Space Center. Or if you don't like doing it that way or you have trouble, just contact us and we'll sort something else out. And of course, if you hate the music, that's what you've got to do. Because at the moment, we don't have any budget to buy any more music. So I would love to. But in the meantime, we haven't had any new Patreon supporters for a few weeks until this week when we've got 2 new ones. So thank you so much. We've got Yang Hugh and Ewan coming. Thank you guys for getting on board. It's a big morale boost and it certainly helps us to pay our bills because there are lots of little things about running the show. It does really add up. And we actually need about $500 a month just to cover our physical cash costs before we start thinking about doing extra advertising or any nice to have things. So anyway, thank you guys for your support there. Now, while I think about it, the Google Hangouts, we keep talking about it and keep not doing it. And I noticed that last week, Haley called in and we missed you. Sorry about that, Haley. And John has sent in a couple of photos from his trip to Australia. So thank you, John. I just saw that before. It just came in just before the show. We will try, perhaps, and have another blast at the Google Hangouts later on. But I've actually put it on my notes, so hopefully I won't forget this time. I wanted to make a quick note about messages and emails and things. You guys are pummeling me with emails and private messages and all sorts of stuff, and I'm loving it, but I'm not keeping up with it, as you know. So apologies to those of you who I have not responded to, but keep them coming in. I'm happy to keep getting the messages. What I have done, one thing is I've decided in the show notes, I'll just put a little section of suggested links because a lot of you are sending in links that you think would be interesting and I just don't have time to get to them all or put them all on the show. So I'm going to, if you look on the show notes, you will see there's just a couple of suggested links this week from Alan Little and one from Rob. Thank you guys for them. And that's one way at least we can sort of be addressing them a little bit. One other quick thing, a couple of quick things actually, sorry. This week we have got some more Lego. So you know what I think about Lego. I think it's awesome. This was a photo from during the last week. We had a session over at Hamilton Observatory, and in the red beanie there is my son Floyd, who's the production assistant here as well, putting together some new Lego stuff. And he had quite a little posse there. He had a group of other kids marveling at his master builder skills. So good on you, Floyd. He really whacked that one together fast, actually. It was very cool. So that's going to be in our Lego display. Now, I can't get hold of the Lunar module. Lego's sold out. I tried to buy one from there a while ago, but I just kept getting error messages. I can't find any shops in New Zealand that are stocking it. Help me out, someone. Where do I buy the new Lego Lunar module from? Because I need it. I got to get it. I can't live much longer without it. So help me out if you know how I could get hold of one of them. Other than the Amazon scammers, the third-party ones on Amazon who charge an arm and a leg. So that's the Lego. Now, one other thing, just with our Space Center news this week, we had a visit during the last week from these folks, Team Quiros. Now, this is a bunch of students from Auckland University. What an awesome visit this was. These guys, they just came on one of our public days, unannounced, and it was really cool. So these guys are students from the university, and let me tell you about this. They are from the Auckland Program for Space Systems. I'm just going to read you the little blurb. The Auckland Program for Space Systems is a cross-faculty program that encourages students to collaborate in creating a solution which fulfills a societal need which they have identified by using a 1U CubeSat. So it's just a very small satellite. Was it 10 centimetres cube? Is it? I think I got that right, a 1U cube satellite. I think that's 10 centimetres cube. Someone tell me if I'm wrong. Out of all the teams who enter for that year, one is selected to further develop their proposal and ultimately build it and launch it into space. Quiros are the team who are lucky enough to be selected for 2019 and hope to inspire the next generation of astronauts, engineers, students, critical thinkers and teachers through engagement with their CubeSat and mission. Things are just kicking off for them, so they will have more news soon. In the meantime, you can keep up with their progress on their Facebook page, and the link to that is in the show notes. So what a cool thing. So these are just a bunch of students, as well as all the other ones that, of course, that have entered and are part of this program. This is just so fantastic, seeing young people, seeing New Zealanders actually doing stuff in the space industry and getting stuff and making it and put it into space. So their thing is all about public outreach and getting people from all around New Zealand to be able to access the data that they're going to be collecting from their satellite. That's just so cool. I'm lost for words, really. This was a neat bunch of people. Really enjoyed having you guys here. Unfortunately, they can't watch the show because their meeting is on at the same time as our show. But if you guys do happen to catch the recorded version of the show, thank you so much for coming and visiting, and all the best with your endeavours. And we are hoping to keep in touch with these guys in the future and hopefully get them live on the show for a little bit of a chat. So this is just so cool. And this is also one, I think, for all the people who are of the opinion that space is fake and that the whole space industry is faking. And, oh, hang on, sorry, Alan's found me the Lunar lander. This is from the Lego shop.
Yep.
Okay, then. Thank you. I will look into that. So last time I looked, which was just earlier on today, they were out of stock. So that's promising. Thanks, Alan. Anyway, the people who think that everything about space is fake, I invite you to look at groups like this, because there are groups all around the world now, groups of students, of amateur enthusiasts that are building everything. In some cases, rockets from the ground up, satellites, and putting them into space. And you cannot tell me that this group of people are part of an international conspiracy. I don't think so. These are just everyday people. With all due respect, I'm sure you're all extraordinary in your own way, but you know, they're just ordinary people with a passion that are doing stuff in space. We live in the age of space access for the masses, and this whole idea that space access is for organizations like NASA, no, that's 20, 30 years in the past. This is the future, and I'm just loving it. Now, if you want to catch up with more news about what these guys are up to, Dan Armstrong has a radio program about them, and the link for that is in the show notes as well. Dan has popped in and watched our show a few times. He did one of his shows was about me, really awesome. Thanks, Dan. He's doing a whole arc on his show about space-themed things. So there you go and check all of that stuff out. Now, I think that is all we needed to talk about with just the Space Centre news and bits and pieces. So it is time to talk about some space news. Awesome. Right, what have we got? Let me just get my thoughts together here. So, the first thing I just wanted to show you was this cool image. It's not really, I guess it's news, but this was an image of Neil Armstrong on the moon, and it's actually the first photo, or the first image, I guess, that has been uncovered of Neil's face on the moon. So a couple of things here. So you'll see that the photos of the astronauts on the moon, they've got their visors down. It's because it's so bright up there and the radiation and everything that they've got these visors on to protect themselves, but they can pull those visors back. Now in this image, Neil is actually under or right next to the lunar module there, and he's looking in the shadows, and he doesn't have his visor on. This was actually taken from one of the video or the film footage, and this guy who put it together, Andy Saunders from the UK, noticed that there were a few frames where Neil was paused and he was still enough that you could actually get a few frames of the film and stack them together to make a clearer image. Interestingly, he used the same technique that astronomers use to stack photos that they're taking of things in space to get a cleaner, clearer image. And he used that same technique to stack some of these images together and get a photo of Neil's face on the moon. Now you can see I've blown it up there on the right. It's not a great photo, but it's pretty cool, I think. It looks almost artificial, doesn't it? But it is from the actual footage. So well done, Andy Saunders. That's a really cool photo, that one. That's a bit timely, I thought, with all the stuff about the anniversary of the landing on the moon. I hope you've all been enjoying that and enjoying all the coverage and getting into the spirit of the anniversary. We've had a great time here at the Space Centre. It happened during the school holidays. We had stuff going on the big screen and everything. There's certainly been a lot of talk about it. So, next thing that I wanted to show you, I think is the next thing on my list. I better make sure that I'm keeping my things in order here. Again from the Apollo missions, I don't know if you recall, but a guy had discovered in his stash of videos that he had some stuff from the Apollo mission. So what happened was that this guy back in the 1970s bought a whole lot of second-hand tapes from NASA, videotapes, and his idea was to just sell them off to local television stations as second-hand tapes. But someone in his family noticed that some of them were labelled Apollo 11 and decided it would be a good idea to keep them. He was right, because they just sold for $1.82 million US. Wow. Check that out. So he just bought them as second-hand stock tapes with no value or anything on them, and just, oh wow, what a story. Now my understanding is that these are the clearest available images. They're even clearer than the ones that NASA used recently to try and restore. Now if we just scroll down here, don't get too excited about this. It does look good. The only still image they've got from the footage is this one. It's not that easy to see. So it's quite similar, to be honest. It's not a vast improvement over what we already had, but still pretty cool stuff. And wow, nice work, whoever managed to get that score. Right, so we're still talking about the moon, but we're moving forward to the present and the future. So right, so the Vice President has announced the first, well, sort of revealed, I guess, the first spacecraft for the Artemis 1 lunar mission. Now, there's no surprises here. This is just the program as it is. It's all on track, and he was really just using the anniversary as an opportunity to unveil the new Orion capsule. So we were standing with the Artemis program now. The Artemis program is the program to get people back to the moon, and as it stands, there are 3 scheduled missions. Artemis 1 is this one that we're talking about. So they've got the Orion capsule that's now ready, well, kind of ready to go. That part of it's built. The service module, which is built by the Europeans, that's also ready, but all the stuff has yet to be sort of put together, and of course it'll be much closer to the time when it all gets stacked on top of the actual rocket. But so this is the Artemis 1 mission, which will not have people on it. So this is just a test mission, of course. So this is scheduled for launch no sooner than June 2020. So it's a good year away yet, and I think it's probably a little on the optimistic side to think that it will go in June 2020. Certainly not before that. So it's all on track. We're still kind of moving towards at least this part of it. Then Artemis 2 is scheduled for sometime later, 2023 or thereabouts. And Artemis 2 will be a crewed mission, so it will have people on it, but that will be a fly-by mission, flying around the moon and then coming back. I guess a bit like Apollo 8 was for the Apollo missions. And then Artemis 3 will be the actual crewed landing in apparently 2024. We'll see how that goes. And that will have, as we have to say, the next man and the first woman to land on the moon. So that's where we're at with the Artemis program. So I think that's all the moon stuff that we had to talk about. Let's just keep an eye on the chats, because I see there's a bit of stuff going on there. Oh yeah, so Kevin's saying your 11-year-old came home and kids at school were saying the moon landing was fake. It's just everywhere, isn't it? That's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this, because the moon hoax theory, it won't go away. It won't die no matter how much we try and explain it to everyone. So I think as much as it gets a little bit tedious, it probably is worth continuing that good fight. Good evening to everyone else who's joining in here. Lots of people, so I'm not going to say hi to every single one of you. Oh, Andy, you thought that was going to be the competition prize tonight. Sorry to disappoint you. And I forgot to tell you the prize again. I did get it out. I did get it out for you though. It's only a little wee prize this week. But it's this thing. It's small, but it's really cool. It's a little box of tektites. Now these are, well, it says rocks that have travelled through space. So it's a bunch of little wee rocks in there. I wonder if I can open it and just show you. Might be a bit tricky. No, I better not do that. Actually, I'm going to make them fly everywhere. But tektites, that's what happens when a meteorite smashes into the ground on Earth and blasts stuff up above the atmosphere, and it goes back into space and then falls back down to Earth again. So these are actual things that have been in space. So as I say, it's very small, but you can touch something that has been in space. So I think that's a cool prize. I really like them. All right, so let's just go through. We're getting a few yeses, a couple of yeses, but not too much perhaps, but here and there. Okay. Yes, a little bit. Okay. All right, so I know that there is a little bit of disagreement about this. Some people think it's just a waste of time and we just shouldn't even be bothering with this sort of thing. And that will tend to be people who have looked into it a lot themselves, probably. But others are saying yes because it's interesting to learn about how things work for reals. Thanks, Andrew. Yep. You're conspiracy theorists, I assume you're meaning there. Righto. Okay, I won't be able to read all of these. There's lots of comments coming in there. This is really cool. Cool, thanks guys. Righto. So there's lots. I think the general consensus is probably yes, but not too much of it. There's certainly some no's in there. Okay, that woman is wearing a NASA t-shirt. Righto. Okay, I think we'll leave that at that. Thank you, guys. So that sort of gives us something to go on. But I'll collate all of that later, but I think we're sort of getting a reasonably clear idea there for what everyone is thinking. So where were we up to with the news? I've already lost where we were up to. We finished talking about the moon stuff. So, where were we? Sorry, just bear with me a sec. Oh, I know what we wanted to talk about. We're still actually talking about the moon here. This is just a picture, but I have actually mentioned this before, but Toyota is working together with the Japanese space agency to make something like this. A pressurized lunar rover vehicle for people. So pressurized, there's an atmosphere inside it. So I really have to stress that this is only the very early days. They've just confirmed what we had already heard, that that Toyota and JAXA are going to be working together to build this thing. So I don't really think I had much in my notes about it, really. No, nothing. So there's a link in the show notes if you want to go and learn more about what they're doing, but honestly it's really just confirming that they are going to be working on this, and I think it's probably, they're looking at around about 10 years development time for this thing. But what an awesome vehicle. Would you love having one of them? So right now, what we're getting to now is one of the big news of the week, and that is related to the SpaceX anomaly. Well, it's been a long time coming, but we finally have got some firm news for you. So this was this is Crew Dragon. So this is SpaceX's, SpaceX, the private company, their vehicle to send people into space that they've been working on for quite a long time. And the idea is that NASA will use this vehicle to get people just up to the International Space Station and into low Earth orbit. So NASA will be using this and perhaps other private companies' vehicles for low Earth orbit, but they're developing their own capsule, the Orion, that we were talking about just before, and the Orion capsule is to get to the moon and anything further away. So this is a really important part of NASA's program, as well as whatever else SpaceX wants to do with it. Now the problem with this thing is that it blew up, which is not what you want to be happening with your capsule with people inside it. So it blew up on the test stand a while ago, and there's been some speculation about what happened, and of course it has delayed the whole program. It's delayed America being able to get people back into space again because they were hoping to do it this year. So we've been waiting very patiently. Last week we mentioned that it looked like it was not a problem with the engines, with the actual thrusters, which is what they were mainly testing. So that was good news, and with all the technical details are there, but the good news is that it definitely was not part of the engines. Essentially what's happened is that the problem was in what you might call the plumbing. So what does it say here? That there was a valve that allowed a bit of the liquid oxidizer to leak backwards into the system where it wasn't supposed to be, and then when the next thing happened, that little bit was fired like a bullet into where it wasn't supposed to be, and smashed something to pieces and caused the explosion. So it's actually looking pretty good. They've got a fix for it, so there's still a delay. But it's actually looking much better. This is about the best possible news I think we could have had out of this, to be honest. So they will fix this. They will get back on track. While I think about this, actually, let's just play you another quick video here. Let me just get it. I'll just zap forward it through a little bit. This is kind of related. This is the parachute test that they're doing. So obviously they're doing a whole lot of tests to get this ready. So what we're seeing here is a drop test, and they're just testing the parachutes for that capsule. That all went really well, so that's looking good too. So I think we're pretty much back on track, or we will be back on track soon for Crew Dragon, SpaceX's vehicle. Elon Musk says he thinks that the Crew Dragon will have people on it, will actually be able to fly people into space within 6 to 8 months. We know Elon likes to be a little bit optimistic, but I think he's probably, if nothing else goes wrong, I think that's reasonably realistic actually. So now I've heard a couple of other comments out of NASA that they think it's within the realm of possibility that they could have people on this going into space before the end of this year, but it really doesn't seem very likely. I think we will be looking at next year, and I think if I had to put money on it, I would say sometime in the first half of next year we should see people inside that capsule blasting off into space. So we're certainly looking forward to that, and all the best to SpaceX for their endeavours there. By the way, there is a SpaceX launch tomorrow morning. It's CRS-18, and that's just on a Falcon 9. They're just delivering supplies and some cargo up to the space station, and I believe they've got part of a docking adapter going up there. So if you want to watch that, just go and check out the SpaceX website tomorrow morning. Righto, how's that time going? It's time for a quick reminder for our competition. So the competition, if you missed it before, should we spend time on this show analysing videos about conspiracies? Did we land on the moon? Is NASA lying to us? Or anything else? Doesn't have to be picking on NASA, all of those kinds of things. I guess that includes the flat Earth, doesn't it? Do we want to go there? I don't know. Anyway, that's the competition. Right, here's another video. Another launch video. I think there's a little bit of audio with this one. Let's have a listen in.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
As you might be able to tell from the commentary there, from the countdown, this is the Indian mission, Chandrayaan-2, which has launched successfully. So they had a little bit of delay with this, I think, but they have launched successfully. This is a mission to the moon. Congratulations to India, even though I'm still angry about the satellite that you blew up. I'm not going to let it go, but whatever, this is a good scientific mission, so congratulations to India. So this is India's second lunar exploration mission, the second mission to the moon. And it consists of an orbiter, a lander, and a rover. So the orbiter will go around and around the moon. The lander will land on the moon, of course, and then it drops down a little ramp, and the little rover comes out and starts driving around. So this will land near the south pole of the moon on the 7th of September. Now that's a long time. You might be wondering, why does it take them that long to get something like this to the moon when the astronauts could get there in 3 days, assuming that they did go to the moon? Well, the reason for that is that it's easier and cheaper to get something to go slowly to the moon. So when you don't have people on it, there's no particular hurry to get it there, so you might as well get a smaller, cheaper rocket and just take longer to get there. It really makes no difference other than having to have a little bit of patience. So when it gets to the moon, assuming that everything all works out nicely, the rover will work for about 14 days. So the thing just driving around will go for about 14 days, which is that's one lunar daytime. So the orbiter is supposed to go for about 1 year, and this would make India the 4th country to achieve a soft landing on the moon. So we're not counting the bare sheet, the crash landing, the 4th country to achieve an actual soft landing on the moon. So there you go. That's the Indian project. There's another thing that I just wanted to quickly mention here, and this was the Chinese satellite. Yeah, it's a satellite, but it's a station that was deorbited recently. This was in the news, and a few people were a little bit concerned about what was going to happen here. But so this is a Chinese. It's a test bed. This was it's sort of like an early version of a space station that they're trying to make, and it was deorbited on purpose. It was only ever supposed to be up there for a few years. Let me just look at my notes. It's been in orbit for almost 3 years, and it's basically just testing out things for a space station that they are hoping to launch sometime before 2022. So there you go. That's just a quick mention of that. And I think that was actually just about all of the rocket and space launch things that I wanted to cover today. What I there was one other thing that I did want to cover here, actually. This is, I think it's the only astronomy story that we actually have this week, unfortunately. But have a look at this one. This goes back to a topic that we have been discussing on the show a few times, and it's related to the expansion rate of the universe. So, as I've said on the show before, this is all about the Big Bang Theory, I guess. It's all related. So, as I've mentioned before, my opinion is that the Big Bang Theory is essentially on the right track. We're on very, very solid footing when we talk about the history of the universe. But there are some problems with it. Generally speaking, I'm quite confident, very confident indeed, that the universe has been expanding for a long time, and it continues to expand now. But there is a bit of an issue. One of the problems is how fast is the universe expanding, and has it expanded at the same rate throughout its history, and what's all that about? Because there are a few discrepancies and a few issues with that whole thing. And we have talked, recently about a couple of different ways of trying to measure the expansion that don't quite agree with each other. Well, this is a really interesting story because this is yet another method of measuring the expansion rate of the universe. This method uses red giant stars, which they are using as a kind of standard candle. Now, we won't have time to go into this whole thing too much, but a standard candle in astronomy is something with a certain brightness. Now, when you look at the stars in the sky and you're trying to figure out how far away they are, one thing that you could do, and what they did do in the early days of trying to figure this stuff out, was look at how bright a star is and assume that the brighter ones are closer to you and the dimmer ones are further away. But of course that doesn't really work very well because some stars, stars have a different intrinsic brightness. So the actual brightness of the star itself is different. So when you look at a star and it looks bright, it might be a really bright star further away or a fainter star that's closer to you. So what you need is a thing called a standard candle, or a star where you know how bright it would be if you were right next to it. In that case, you can measure its brightness, its luminosity from Earth, and be able to tell how far away it is. And that's one of the ways that we can tell how fast the universe is expanding, by measuring the brightness and other things to do with these standard candles. Now, so we've been using a type of star called a Cepheid variable for a long time now, and that's kind of been the standard candle that we've used. And it's a pretty safe bet. I think that we're on the right track with these things. But the problem with it is that if we've got something wrong with our theory of how this all works, and we're relying very heavily on this one type of standard candle, and there's something wrong with that, then that really throws everything into confusion. Everything that's based on that is also going to be wrong. So what these scientists have done is they have figured out a way to use red giant stars as a standard candle. And that's quite big news, really, that they've been able to do that and use that as a measurement of the expansion. Basically what they've come to is that red giant stars reach a certain point in their life cycle where they reach peak brightness, and if we can identify those stars, we will know how bright they would be if you were next to it, so that becomes a standard candle. So cool, well, that's way cool. I love this sort of stuff. This is really talking about the big questions of the universe, how it all works. So the bad news, I guess it's kind of bad news, is that the measurement they've made using this method is sort of between other methods. It's not really confirming or ruling out anything else. It's just another one that doesn't quite fit. So that's sort of a little bit upsetting. We would want some of these things to sort of start stacking up with one measurement, so we can start honing this in a little bit more. But to be fair, they're all not that far away from each other. So they're talking about the Hubble constant, the rate of expansion, and to be honest, they're all in the same ballpark, even though it looks like they are disagreeing with each other. So links in the show notes if you want to know more about that. I think this is just really, really exciting, and everything that's happening in space. You know how much I love all the rockets and the launches and the tech and all the rest of it, but it's that kind of stuff that really gets me going. Figuring out the big answers to what it's all about. Righto, so I'm thinking if anyone wants to have a go on the Google Hangouts, This is where I put it in my notes right now. So we still haven't tested it out. We still don't know how it would work or if it would work or not. But if you want to try calling in on the Google Hangouts, there's the, where is it, down here somewhere? That's the address there. You just go into Google Hangouts, and I can't even remember how you do it. But if you use Google Hangouts, I'm sure you'll figure it out. And I will keep an eye on it over here, and I'll see if anyone tries to call in. While we do that, I'm going to talk about something completely different. Now, I had a visit within the last week from a guy from the Hamilton Astronomical Society, whose name is Charles, and he is into ham radio, amateur radio stuff, and he has set up a couple of days here where you can go and get your ham radio license. So I thought I would just give that a quick plug. So ham radio is really popular for all sorts of things around the world, and you can use ham radio to talk to people in space. And we've actually got a display here at the Space Centre, a whole lot of recordings from a guy who did exactly that, was talking to astronauts and cosmonauts over a period of years, and we do have vague plans to do it here at the Space Centre. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get to this, but if you are interested in this, I've just realised that when I scanned this, I've chopped the bottom of it off with the contact number. That's not very helpful, is it? So let me know. If you're interested in that, let me know. But while I was talking to Charles, he told me about this thing which I'd vaguely heard of before but didn't really know anything about, and it's called moon bouncing, or Earth-Moon-Earth communication. And that's basically where you set up your ham radio operation and you bounce your signal off the moon. Now, I know this idea goes back a long way. It was proposed as a way to communicate around the Earth. It's kind of like a really basic sort of communication satellite before communication satellites, where you could bounce it off the moon and someone else out of your line of sight would be able to pick up on it. Now, Charles shared me this video, which I'm going to play for you now. This is an example of moon bouncing. Check this out. Let me just, so you can hear it, but here we go.
So high, up in the sky, we lost our good old mama.
My mic was still going then, wasn't it? So you can see what's happening here. This lady is bouncing her voice off the moon and hearing it back. Isn't that incredible that you could do something like that?
Hello, moon.
I want to do this. Yeah. Who'd come and play around with that with me? Would you come and have it? Yeah. What a cool thing to do, bouncing your voice off the moon. As I say, I can't unfortunately get along to Charles' his, I don't even know what you call it, his program there to get your ham radio license, but boy, after seeing that, I'm keen as mustard. Now, has anyone tried that? Does anyone know more about this than I do? Like, how hard is it? I believe you actually have to have a pretty good dish to be able to bounce your voice off the moon and back, but what a cool thing to try. Right, so I'm just having a quick look through the chats again. What have we got here? Righto. NASA's observatory plane was in Christchurch this week. Was it Sophia? I didn't even know that. Thanks, Wendy. NASA has a plane called Sophia with an observatory. And they've got a huge opening on the side of it, and it flies around. It's a fantastic thing. We should get back to that and talk about that. Vienna's not keen on hearing all that stuff. She just wants to hear about the real science stuff. Good on you, Vienna. Right, the competition prize. Hayley, I will bring your prize to you. Who is, sorry? Oh, okay then, John. Righto, thank you, John. Apparently John is, righto. Right, I'm trying to multitask here, guys.
No, don't bother.
Righto, stand by, John. I think we might be getting there. Let me just bring you over here. Okay, righto. Can you hear me, John?
Yes.
You can hear me? Right, hang on, everyone. This is John. Welcome to the show, John. How are you doing?
Hello.
Right, we've got you on. Success! Well done. Good on you for trying, John. Where are you calling from, John?
I'm calling from Te Kowhai.
Oh, Te Kowhai, just north of Hamilton, right?
Yeah, near Hamilton.
Okay then, and you've been watching the show for a while, haven't you, John?
Yeah.
Okay, so you like space?
Yep.
What's your favourite thing about space, John?
I'm quite concerned about the Rosetta landing. That kind of fascinates me a bit.
Oh, okay then. The Rosetta landing, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, that is very cool. It's all happening. I've got another call coming in. Now, I wonder what happens if I try and join two at once. Because Karsten's calling in as well. So, hang on.
It's Copeland, just north of Hamilton, right?
Oh, hang on, we're getting all sorts of feedback. This is what testing's about. Okay, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye to you, John. Thank you for calling in, and we're going to give another one. Hopefully this isn't the last time. Okay. Now, Karsten, have you got your speaker on? You need to turn your speaker down. Whoever's got their speaker on, need to turn it down. Okay, I think we've lost Karsten. Karsten left the call. Okay, sorry about that, John. Sorry, Karsten. John, you're still here. Oh, look at that poster behind you. I think I can see what it is.
Yeah, I can turn it around.
And we're getting all sorts of feedback. Okay, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say goodbye to you, John. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, sorry, Karsten, I'm going to hang up on you, Karsten, because we're getting feedback from your call there. In the meantime, John has got a periodic table of the elements up there on his wall. That's what we like to see.
It's hard to get a good angle.
Yeah, no, we can see what you've got there. That is awesome. Have you got any space posters there?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if we've got any space places down here near Hamilton.
Oh, okay. Posters I was actually asking you about. Do you have any posters on your wall? Any posters about space?
No, but I have a 2019 space calendar that I have not yet changed.
Okay. Right,
Still
that'll do
on
nicely.
May.
That is so cool. If you ever want to buy a space poster, you know where to come and buy them from. Okay, look, thank you so much for calling in, John. Thank you for being a tester for us. Thank you for watching the show, and we'll catch up with you another time. Cheers, John. See you later.
Cheers. See you.
Okay, good on you, John. Thanks for trying it out. Now, you know how we do things here on the show. We like to test things out live when they're happening. Now, Karsten, I'm very sorry about that, but I'm picking what was happening was that we were getting the sound coming back from your speakers. So if you can, it really helps to wear headphones when you're doing this sort of thing. But we'll give that another try with you some other time, Karsten. Sorry about that. Anyway, let me just grab a quick drink and try and remind myself where we were up to. We were talking about the moon bouncing, weren't we? Now, I think we'd pretty much covered that, though. So I think, yes, it is definitely time to talk about this other thing. Let me see, where is it? I've got it. Hang on. There is an issue, as I've said, about showing videos on this show. Unfortunately, I can't show you this video, but this is a still of it and we can talk about it. So this was Winky tagged me on this one. Winky is a big supporter of the show and according to Facebook, one of our top fans. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, Winky. I don't know how they do their algorithm, but Facebook tells me you're one of our top fans. So Winky tagged me in this video, said check this out. So the video, it was about 15 minutes long, so we wouldn't want to watch the whole thing anyway. But what I can do is I can talk you through what it's about. The link to the video is in the show notes if you want to go and talk about it. Now, one possibility in the future would be to be looking at a video like this, but perhaps I could show it to you for next week so you could go and have a look at it first before we actually tackle it. Anyway, this video, it starts off with about a minute's worth of introduction in which they announce that NASA is full of it and constantly lying and all the rest of it. So I guess they make their position fairly clear. But then it starts talking about an interview with a NASA employee, Farouk El-Baz, who was part of the Apollo program. And it talks about this interview in which he was asked about, and I'll quote from the video's narration, a curious incident which took place during Apollo 16 when John Young and Charles Duke made an unexpected detour after investigating a mysterious color change in the subsurface dirt. Now I've got a couple of stills from the video here. So just for context, Capcom is capsule communication, so that's mission control, and Young is John Young, the astronaut on the moon. So in the video, it says, Capcom, we understand you looped around south. Is that right? And Young says, that is a firm we came upon Barbara. Then in the video, it talks about how in this interview, Farouk El-Baz couldn't explain what Barbara meant. He didn't know what it was all about, and it was all speculation. What does it mean? Is it code for something? What was this unexplained detour all about? And, you know, have they found something that we're not supposed to know about? So what do you do when you see something like this? Well, because in the interview, Farouk El-Baz didn't know. He couldn't answer the question. Now that's not surprising. The transcript from this mission is about 2,000 pages long. There's a lot of stuff in there. You can't just expect some guy who worked at NASA to be able to explain every single thing here. So when you look at this, you've got a video like this and you ask yourself what's going on. How do you find out what the truth is behind this? Well, one thing to do before you start looking into it, I think, is ask yourself, what is the simplest explanation? So you might know of a sort of a principle in science called the principle of parsimony, often called Occam's razor, in which the simplest explanation is more likely to be the correct one. That's oversimplifying it for sure, but in a nutshell, you want to think about what is the simplest explanation, and we'll get back to that in a minute. So let's say you've got something like this and you want to figure out what's going on. You need to go back to the source, right? You need to find the actual transcript and try and figure out if you can see what's going on from the context there. So I did that. What I've done is, just bear with me a minute here and I'll just get this queued up for you. So where is it? It's down here. So this is the relevant part from the actual transcript, and it's about halfway down. And what I've done is I've actually matched up the audio. So I downloaded the audio as well from this part of the mission, and I will play you the relevant part of it. And I've got it lined up with the lines here.
Okay, just a question there for you, John. When you got to halfway, or what you decided was halfway, we understand you looped around the south. Is that right? That's true. And any of the craters that you looked into, yeah, we came up on. Okay, in any of the craters you looked into, were there any evidence of outcrops in the walls?
Okay, that's all we need to listen to. So, couple of things here. First of all, you'll notice that John Young was talking and kind of got interrupted. Well, that sort of thing happens all the time with radio communications, doesn't it? If you're used to using walkie-talkies or anything, you know what it's like when two people are trying to talk, someone's got their hand on the button. So what happened in the line just above this one, this is the line in question. So John Young is saying, yeah, we came up on Plum from, and then got cut off while the other guy was talking. So he didn't say Barbara at all. This is the official transcript that was released just before, just after the mission. And I've been back and listened to it a bunch of times. And if you really use your imagination quite a lot, you might be able to make that say Barbara. Let's have another listen to it, actually.
That's true. And any of the craters that you looked into, yeah, we came up on. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So now that you've heard Barbara, you might be able to hear that. What do you guys in our studio audience think about that? Kind of, whatever. Yeah, well, anyway, when you look at the whole context of the thing, what's going on here is that these guys are on an EVA, extravehicular activity. They're driving around in the Lunar Rover. So it's really important to understand the context here, and you can go back and read all of the transcript about what's going on. You can see some of it here. What they're talking about is them driving around, exploring, looking for interesting geological stuff to study. They're looking for good samples, they're looking at the craters, they're trying to figure out what's under the ground. So they are studying, they're trying to learn as geologists what's going on here. And everything makes sense. Plum is the name of a crater that they've just been around. So if we look back at the video that said they made an unexpected detour. No, they didn't. That was just the way they drove around it. During all of this conversation, you'll see the astronauts and the people at Mission Control constantly talking about where they are, which way they're traveling, what they're going to do next, for obvious reasons. They're wanting to know where they are. A lot of it is actually just talking about navigation, making sure that they can find their way back. That's pretty important, right? Stuff like that. They want to know where they are, so when they're gathering samples, they can say exactly which crater it came from, so they can match it all together. So Capcom was simply asking which way they went around. You looped around to the south. Is that right? That's the way that you were going? Yes. This was not an unexpected detour. In fact, how do you even have a detour? They were just out there exploring, trying to find stuff. It doesn't make any sense to say they had an unexpected detour. Okay, so then he was simply saying we came up on plumb from that direction, but he's already answered the question. They'd looped around south. We've got it there. Yep, so Capcom, okay, right, now back to my question, and they just carry on. Honestly, when you read the whole transcript, there's nothing suspicious about any of this, and to try and insert Barbara in there, I just don't think is, it's deceptive. So back to the question of what is the simplest answer here. And I hate to say this, I should have given you a bit of a spoiler alert here, but when you see stuff like this, the simplest answer, well, if you try and think about what all the possibilities are, is this some secret code word? Have they found some aliens? Well, a simpler answer. Hang on, someone in the audience has got a comment. What was your comment in the audience?
Said an alien called Barbara.
An alien called Barbara. Okay, well actually I think John Young's wife was called Barbara as well. Don't quote me on that one, but I think that's right. So maybe he was having a flashback or something. But anyway, look, the simplest answer here is that the people who made this video are lying. That's all got it wrong, but there's more to it than that. Okay, so yeah, probably got it wrong, made a mistake. We'll be charitable and say they made a mistake here. But it's hard to imagine how they made that mistake, because I actually had a look at a few different versions of the transcript, because you can get other ones. This is the one that came out immediately after the mission. Other transcripts go back and put in annotations and clarifications and things and corrections, because they made some mistakes in the original one. But nothing that I've been able to come across said anything about Barbara. The only reference to Barbara on this mission that I've been able to find is this video. Okay, so in my opinion, it's quite clear that this is a deliberate deception there, that they're trying to make something that just wasn't there. The whole thing about this unexpected detour, trying to make it sound dodgy, when it just doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, that was the first part of the video. I'm not going to go over the whole thing because there's a whole bunch of other things that it talks about. But at this point, this is where I'm thinking, yeah, there's nothing to see here. But I scrolled through the rest of the video to see if I could find something else that looked like it would be at least easy to look into, and I came across another thing. This was actually from Apollo 15, part of the same video, where Irwin says tracks here as we go down the slope. Now the context of the video was that these guys were driving around on the moon and unexpectedly came across these tracks. In fact, in my notes here, I think right, here we go. This is quoting from the video. Scott and Irwin came across a set of uniform tracks that ran down a slope and out of sight. And they put this picture with it. What do you think is the simplest explanation for this? Well, first of all, that photo there is actually... hang on a sec. Let's see what our audience says about this. What do you guys reckon?
Their own tracks? Their own tracks. Have they been down there before? Someone else been down there before? Yeah.
You guys are good. You guys are good. See, it's not that hard, is it? Mind you, these guys are pretty clever in our audience, to be fair. They're more clever than your average bear, but still. So the image that you've got here is unrelated. So the first thing that they've done is they put an unrelated image with the audio. Yeah, it wasn't even audio, actually. They didn't even use the audio. They just used some of the transcript. But let me show you the actual transcript from that section of the mission, and it is down here. Our tracks here as we go down slope. There you go. And look at the whole thing. What's happening here again, they are out on the Lunar Rover, they're driving around, and as they're driving around, they're talking a lot about the navigation. And they mention their own tracks a lot, constantly, all through it. They're talking about their own tracks, partly because the tracks actually reveal things. As they can expose stuff under the surface and how much it compresses the lunar regolith or the moon soil down. There's actually things that you can learn from just looking at your own tracks. But in fact, I'm sure on at least one of these missions they referred to the Hansel and Gretel method of navigation, in which you're basically following your own tracks back where you came from, so you don't get lost. You don't want to get lost on the moon, do you? So that's what they're talking about. They're just talking about their own tracks. But The video, this is actually worse. I wish I'd spent more time looking at this bit, but I ran out of time for this one because this was much more of a deliberate deception. What happens is that on the video, they went on to edit different parts of the transcript together to make it sound like they were talking about something that they weren't talking about. There was a couple of quotes like, "I can't get over their lineations, that layering, that's the most organized structure I've ever seen." Well, when you go back and look through the transcripts, they're not talking about their tracks. They're talking about some mountains that they're looking at. They're talking about geological features there. But on this video, they've edited it all together with the stuff about talking about their rover tracks to make it sound like they're talking about something very unusual that they've discovered. So look, I'm really sorry to let you guys down that get really excited about this stuff. You know, I know it's really cool to think that they might have discovered something interesting up there, but they did discover interesting stuff. They discovered stuff about the moon. And I think that that's where the interesting stuff is. To be fair, when you read through that transcript and you read 1,000 pages of geologists talking in scientific speak, it's not that compelling to the average person, but it is what it is. You know, as much as I would love to say that they found aliens there, there's just nothing here. And sorry, that's pretty much the bottom line, that videos like this, it's pretty safe to say that it is someone that has basically deliberately put something together to mislead you so that they can get clicks, likes and shares. That's what it's all about. So, bit of a tough one, that one, but sorry, that's what I think is going on. I'm just checking out Jane Fonda Barbarella. That's a good one. Could have been Barbarella. What a movie. Right, so what else did everyone say about this? Sophia is based out of Christchurch for most of our winter because the longer nights allow for longer observations. You can follow them on flight radar and with NASA 747. Thank you for that, Lance. Now, Kevin, do these results show that the universe is expanding at variable rates? That's a great question, Kevin. And that, when you look back at the history of the expansion of the universe according to the sort of generally accepted main model, they have had to say that the universe has expanded at different rates. In particular, I'm thinking of the inflation period. In the very early part of the universe, well, one good explanation would be that the universe expanded very quickly, a lot very quickly, and then the rate changed, and we're now in a phase where it's actually starting to speed up again, the expansion. And the whole thing to me, I mean, I can see why, you know, from my sort of semi-layman's point of view, I can see how they came to these conclusions, but to me, something still smells fishy with the whole thing. And this is the thing that I've talked about with the Big Bang Theory. I think we have yet to pin down some of the things, including the expansion rate of the universe, and is it expanding at different rates? It's a great observation, great question. Righto, doing hangouts is similar to moon bouncing. It has been a little bit so far, hasn't it? Right. Oh, driver's saying, my mate's a hammer operator and they skip signals off the ionosphere. Yes, they do. We would listen to Russian fishing boats. Awesome. Cool. John, accept my call. Thanks, John, for that. Righto. So, Dominic, you'll call in after the show. Okay. Right. Right. We better not go back any further there. I think that was just about it. Technically, John Young was as much an alien on the moon as another alien would be. Yeah, you're dead right, Lance. Fair enough. Technically true. Right. Driver Lance is also saying, as calm as John Young always was. He was, wasn't he? He had quite a very, very calm demeanour. I'd expect his voice to be a little more excited if he'd actually seen an alien. Yeah. Righto. Okay. Oh, hang on. Sorry.
Can you update us on the Russian launch over the weekend?
The Russian launch.
Yeah, go back to those.
Wasn't that what we covered last week? Or was there another one?
Can you update us on where the... is it? Oh no, the India one. Is it still circling the Earth?
The India one, yes, it will be. Now, the India one, yeah, that's going to take quite a while to get to the moon. That one, so we won't hear anything for some time. Really, it was September. It was that was due to arrive at the moon. And if we are, so which side was it on?
On the YouTube.
On the YouTube one. Sorry. Right, sorry. Is it circling the Earth or is it already on the way to the Moon? Look, sorry, I'm not actually sure about that. If anyone knows whether it is in its whether it's left low Earth orbit and it's heading towards the Moon yet or not, let me know. Sorry, I don't actually know that. Righto, yes, and we need to test group calls. Thank you, John, for that. Righto, I think that was all that stuff that we needed to get through. There is one last thing that I want to tell you about. I can't show it to you for copyright reasons, but there's a link in the show notes, and it's about that show, that the TV program that we're all getting excited about, Picard. Remember, we had a look at the poster for it last week. Now, the trailer's out. Have you seen the trailer? Has anyone seen the trailer? Oh, I wish I could show it to you. Go and look at it. First thing after the show, go and now, unfortunately, it's one of these ones where on YouTube and lots of places it's not available in New Zealand. However, I did find a legit link to it, and it's in the show notes right down the bottom under miscellaneous, Picard trailer. Go and check it out. There's a couple of cool surprises in there. You're gonna I loved it. Ooh, it looks good. So anyway, that was that. We need to talk about how we're going with the competition. How's everything going over there with the competition, Jess? Good. Are we good? Are we ready to do it? Okay, so bring it up. We'll get someone to call a name out of that, or pull a name out of the helmet. Just quickly while we do that, Picard. Okay, I'll just have a quick look through the chat while you guys do that. I'm not spaced, Dave. Thanks, Ian, for that one. There was something else I wanted to get back to you about, Ian. I can't remember what it was now. Wendy's seen the trailer. It's awesome. Yeah, I'm just so tempted to give spoilers, but I won't. Right, so how are we going? Have we got a name there, Jess? No, we're still doing it now. We had a lot of entries tonight, didn't we? Thank you, everyone who entered the competition. We're loving this. And how do you spell that one?
D-O-U-C-H.
Okay, so it's Cullen anyway. Douche, is it? Anyway, sorry about that. Cullen, you have won the prize. So if you could just, the prize again is this beautiful little box. It's only a little wee box, but it's actual stuff that's been in space. So cool. So just, Cullen, if you could just send us a private message or something, and we will sort out how to post that through to you. So just let us know where to post it to. So one last check of the chat here. SpaceX is launching to ISS tomorrow. Yep, thank you for that, Jay. Yeah, that is CRS-18. We mentioned that earlier on, and I think it's around about 10:30. I'm not quite sure in the morning, but anyway, if you go to spacex.com and click on their webcast, you'll be able to watch the launch for that. So here we go, Jay. Russia launching to the ISS, launching 3 people to the ISS on Sunday. I can't see it taking clear off the moon anniversary. Fair enough. Why was it not mentioned? Yeah, it's a good question. I guess it's one of those things, it's become a bit too routine, hasn't it? I should do, but I know that there's times when we've had launches to and from the space station where we just haven't mentioned it here. So yeah, maybe we should at least have given it a mention. Thanks for that, Jay. Anyway, that's what your guys' job is. It's not all up to me. You guys need to be tuning in and telling me what to talk about. Anyway, so with that, I think we are about done for the night. So thank you again for our studio audience for coming in. Awesome to have you guys here and filling out the seats. Thank you so much. Thank you again, everyone who's tuned in tonight. And we will see you again the same time next week. Bye-bye.